Hi, you guys. Welcome back to the Amani Talks podcast. You're here with your host, Amani, on the podcast where we discuss our Christian-based topics and deepening our relationship with the Lord. So we took the summer off after our Proverb a Day series back in July. You guys, I have been traveling so much this summer. I've been pretty much gone every single weekend. So I was like, you know what? After the Proverb a Day, let's go ahead and take a little sabbatical. Let me travel, get all my traveling out for the summer. Today is September 22nd that I'm recording on, the first day of fall. I was like, okay, when fall starts, we're going to get back on our regularly scheduled programming for the podcast. So we are back. I missed you guys so much, to be honest with you. I have really missed recording, but sometimes you need that breather. I don't ever want to just record just for the consistency's sake. I took a little bit of time off and now we are back with the podcast, and I am just so glad to be recording again. Yeah. So like I said, I've been traveling a lot, and I actually just am fresh off of a trip going to see my family. You know, I'm wearing my New York sweatshirt. My mom just got this for me. So yeah, I went to go see my family back in New York. I literally just got back today. Like I left Friday, just got back today, and I was like, I'm recording a podcast episode tonight. I was actually just recently having a conversation with a friend of mine, and they were like, you know, you've been going back home to see your family pretty often, you know, and I was like, yeah, like you're right, because when I first moved to Atlanta, that was not the case. I was not seeing my family often whatsoever. I mean, I went years without going back home, and shoot, there were a lot of times I wouldn't even talk to my family. I wasn't going back home at first for years. And then I was going home because my mom was like, you need to at least come home for Christmas. Like, come on now. And I would be like counting down the hours till I was able to get back to Atlanta. And now the past couple years, I've been going and really enjoying myself. And it just made me really realize that I'm really healing from what I call eldest daughter trauma, or like eldest daughter resentment that only eldest daughters have lived through and recognized. During this trip, you know, some things happened, you know, while I was there, and I had a conversation with my mom about just how hard it is to be the eldest daughter. And I was just kind of like, I'm over it. Like, I don't want the responsibility of having this eldest daughter position in our family. And my mom was basically just like, listen, it's not a coincidence that you're the eldest daughter. This is a God-ordained position in your family, and you just need to rise to the occasion, because there are no coincidences or accidents with the fact that you are going to be a matriarch in this family very soon. The same position that my mom is in. This is a conversation that we just had yesterday, y'all. And it just made me want to come on here and talk about something that I haven't really opened up about with you guys at all, I think. You guys know I'm from New York, and I always talk about how I packed up my 2-door hoopty and I moved to Atlanta, and, you know, that was about 8 years ago. It'll be 8 years. Actually, I think it's like literally, it'll be 8 years tomorrow on the 23rd. Wow, crazy. But basically, I've never really given you guys like the true tea about why I left New York. Whenever people ask me, I always say the same things, and these things are true, but it's not the whole truth. I always tell people, you know, I came to Atlanta for the weather and the black people and the opportunities. My mother's mom moved to not Atlanta, but moved to Georgia, like the suburbs of Georgia, when I was about in middle school. And so we would always come and visit her, and I would just be like in awe of just seeing black people everywhere, because that's not the case in upstate New York. Like that's not the dynamic. And just seeing that there was just more to do, and I was sick of the snow, all this stuff. So I was just kind of like, when I'm done with school, I'm going to move to Atlanta, and that's what I did, and that's what I tell people. But there is a huge reason besides those reasons as to why I left my family home and came here. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how the enemy attacks the eldest daughter with eldest daughter resentment. We're going to talk about the ways that I am handling it, the way that I'm still healing from it, how the Lord has really ushered me into a season of forgiveness, releasing resentment, and stepping up to the God-given role of the eldest daughter that he has given me, and how you can do those things too. Because I know that there are so many conversations out there that talk about eldest daughter dynamics, especially in broken families and especially when it's a lot of siblings, which is definitely my situation. And I want to give you the true perspective of healing from any emotional trauma. And I don't, for me, it wasn't so much emotional trauma. That sounds so like dramatic to me, but there was definitely a lot of resentment. Letting go of resentment, forgiving, and stepping into the role that the Lord has for you as the eldest daughter. Let's get into it. So to start off this episode, we have to go way back to the beginning, way, way, way back, to really give you guys a good glimpse of what my family was like that even led me to having so much resentment that I felt like I had to move across the country from my family house. So off the bat, my parents had me very young. They were teenagers when they had me, and both my mom and my father married other people. So off the rip, I have 10 siblings, you guys. And this is not even including step siblings. These are just like my biological half siblings, right? You might look at that and say, what? Like 10 siblings, like that's crazy. But these are coming from separate households, y'all. Like my mom had 3 kids, my dad had the rest. So off rip, I'm born into a situation that is designed to see me fail, is designed to set me back. Because you cannot deny that a family that has a healthy dynamic kind of has similar things in common. There's this famous novel called Anna Karenina, and it's famous for the story, but also the opening few sentences of that novel are famous. And just summarizing it, of course, I haven't memorized it, but the sentiment of the first opening sentences of this novel are as such. All good families have certain characteristics or traits in common, but all families that you would characterize as bad, they're all bad in their own unique way. And that's to say that when you see a healthy family dynamic, most likely you will see these things: a mother and a father who are married and love each other, a household devoid of abuse, for the most part, visible abuse, children that have siblings and they are products of their mom and their dad, they're in one household, good communication, love, respect, most likely a foundation rooted in the Lord. These are the things that you can look at any family that you would say this is an objectively good and healthy family. Like when you look at, I think a good example is Sierra and Russell's family. You look at that family and you can say, yes, these are hallmarks of a good family. This is what most good families look like. But when your family is dysfunctional, a lot of the times you're dysfunctional in different ways. And my family was dysfunctional with the fact that broken homes were what a lot of us were born into my family, and were low-key the norm, because it's not just me that was born into a broken home to teenage parents. My mother also was. And this is just a good testament of how sin, because having children outside of wedlock, having sex before marriage is 100% a sin. You cannot contest that. This is a good example of how sin is generational. And a good example that we see in the Bible of sin being generational is Abraham. When the Lord told Abraham to leave his family and go to an unknown land, in their travels, him and his wife, they come to Egypt, and Abraham is like, listen, these people are not God-fearing. You are a beautiful woman. They're going to try to take you for their wife, and they're going to kill me as a result. Please tell these people that you're my sister so that they will deal with me kindly. Now, here's the thing about that story. It's not necessarily false, because Sarah was his half sister. Back in them days, they used to marry their family. Sarah was actually his half sister, but he was weaponizing the truth for a falsehood, because that's not just his sister, that's his wife. And he told her to omit the truth, which is lying, so that people would deal with him rightfully. And I look at that story and I'm just kind of like, bruh, you really put your wife in danger of someone trying to sleep with her, trying to take her from you just because you didn't want to get dealt with. I swear, there are so many men in the Bible who showed their cowardice. That's a whole different situation. That's a whole different story. But anyway, he did that, right? He 100% sinned. And we don't see the direct ramifications of that sin, because Genesis is not one of those books that has like the cause and effect and how the Lord responded and da-da-da. Genesis is really like a historical text. In the first 10 chapters, you get a lot of history. Like it's really just telling you what happened back in those days. So we don't see directly how the Lord dealt with that sin when Abraham told his wife to lie and put her in danger. We know that the Lord rescued Sarah. We know that they got out of that situation, but the Lord does not overlook sin. And because Abraham did that, and it seems as though that was not something that he was really repentant of, his son ended up doing the same exact thing. In Genesis chapter 26, we see Isaac, Abraham and Sarah's son, telling his wife Rebekah when they were traveling, don't tell these men that you're my wife because you're so beautiful that they're going to try to kill me and take you. Tell them that you're my sister. The same exact lie, y'all. That's not a coincidence. That's a very specific lie. Like, I don't know if that was something that men did commonly when they were traveling to ensure their safety, but that's so specific that that cannot be a coincidence. Just like there are no coincidences with the Lord, there are no coincidences with sin. It's not a coincidence that Isaac told the same lie with his wife that could potentially have put her in danger that his father did. Sin being passed down. And just like that was not a coincidence, that sin being passed down from father to son, it's also not a coincidence that me being born the eldest daughter into an automatically broken family with several other siblings, that got passed down to me from my mother and from her mother. My mother had me when she was a teenager. Her mother had her when she was a teenager. My mom is also the eldest daughter. My mom also has many siblings from different households. I have 10 siblings. I think my mom has 8 or 9. I think it's 8. That's not a coincidence, y'all. And there are two sides to this coin, right? One perspective is that this is a generational sin. And we know that unless you submit to the Lord and these generational sins are broken with the blood of Jesus, they will just continue to repeat. And that's why I've always been so big and so vocal on speaking up about generational broken homeness within the Black family, because you have to recognize it first and be able to submit yourself and submit that sin to the Lord to be able to break that contract with the devil. When you are willfully sinning like that, when you sign that contract of sin, the Lord, or the devil, comes to reap the benefits of that contract with you, with the next generation, with the generation after that. The only thing that breaks the covenant that you come into when you willfully sin is the blood of Jesus Christ and repentance. But thank God that my mom was the person in her family to break that generational curse, because that could have been me next. That could have been me after my grandmother had my mom at 16, after my mom had me as a teenager. That could have been me next. I could have been the next eldest daughter to have a teenage pregnancy and create another divided home. My mom broke that generational curse by receiving salvation, submitting herself to the Lord, and making sure that her kids don't have to fall to the same thing that her mother fell to and she fell to. My mom was the person that did that. I mean, it was the Lord, it was the Lord, but my mom is the one who lived through that. And that's the other side of this coin, because it's very easy from the outside looking in to say, yes, that is dysfunction. That is the definition of dysfunction. Your family has been doing the same thing generation through generation that is dysfunctional, it is wrong, it is sinful, and it is off rip setting your children up for failure. My mom broke that curse through living through the Lord. And now the other side of that coin is, because she's the eldest daughter of a broken family with 8 siblings, now she gets to teach me the correct way to live my life as the eldest daughter to a broken home with 10 siblings. Because I look at the way that my mom lives her life, and by the way, she's the only one in her sibling group, within her siblings, to be a saved Christian doing kingdom work. And I'm not talking bad about my family. I love my family, my aunts and my uncles, my mom's siblings. My mom had me young, so I grew up with her siblings like they were my cousins, like they were my sisters. We darn near grew up like this, very close in age. Love them, but they're not doing what my mom is doing, not even close. My mom is the one who sets up family Bible studies every Friday night on a Zoom call so that we as a family can all come together on a Friday night when you could be out drinking. You're in a textbook. You're in the Word. Right now we're going through the story of Abigail, living with difficult people in your life. My mom chose this book for our Bible studies. She's been leading it for the past 5 years. Who else is doing that in our family? Nobody. Nobody is doing that. It was my mom who got saved and made sure that I grew up in church so that I could receive salvation as a kid. A lot of people get in my comment section, they be like, I'm not listening to you. You just became a Christian 2 minutes ago. Actually, shut up because you're wrong. And I've said that plenty of times. My mom got me into church when I was younger. I had a rebellious period for years, but that did not make it so that the Lord was not my father. We rebel against our parents all the time. That don't make them not our parents no more. Yeah, I rebelled, and I'm coming back to it right now because of what my mom did when she got me into church. My mom did that work. My mom broke generational curses. And see, outside looking in, like I said, this could be looked at as dysfunction, that these patterns got repeated. But I know for a fact that it's not a coincidence that my mom and I have almost the same life, because he set my mom up to save her in order to save me so that I could step into the role that the Lord has for me as the eldest daughter. See, because what the devil means for your destruction, growing up in a broken family, being a teenage parent, things that easily break other people, what the devil means for your destruction, the Lord can always turn it around for your good, because we know that all things come together for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. And my mother was called. So that's my background, y'all. I know that was a lot of information, but it's pertinent to this conversation about eldest daughter wounds, resentment, forgiveness, all of that, because me being 30, I can look back on my life and I can clearly see how the Lord has moved, is still moving. And hindsight, of course, is 2020. But when you're living in it, and I'm not even going to act like I'm totally on the other side of these are still things that I'm still healing from, and we can heal together through these conversations. I'm not even completely on the other side. I'm still going through it. But right now, I can look back and say, yes, this is what I learned. But going through it was a whole different situation. And I want to talk about the ways that I handled it, how those ways were ineffective, and how I am releasing it to the Lord now and how it's being handled now. So because my mom grew up in a situation that could be seen as dysfunctional, when she had me in an attempt to break those generational sins, those generational curses, you know, she did handle me a lot differently than her mom handled her. She was a lot more strict with me. I'm not going to speak to how she handled my siblings. I can only speak to my experience with my mom. She was very strict, even to the point to, you know, our whole family really recognized it. And, you know, the whole thing was, you know, Nikki don't play. My mom's name is Nicole. Nikki don't play. You know, Nikki real strict with them kids, you know. And it was almost like a negative in our family that my mom was very strict. Like, that's how they would talk about it in a negative way. And living through it, I definitely felt like it was a negative. You know, you get to see your cousins and other people kind of really living their lives and doing things, and they invite you out and you can't go because your mom always saying no. You know, it was very strict over here. Like, it just was, because that was my mom's way of handling things in an attempt to be like, you're not going to grow up the way that I grew up. You're going to, you know, grow up differently. And it was so strict, and I felt so like suffocated. Like, I felt like my mom's house was jail. Like, that's just the way that I felt, especially in comparison to my father's house. You know, I would go over there on the weekends, and my dad wasn't like, oh, a free for all, but it was just totally different, y'all. So just having that experience of my dad's house being a little bit more free, my mom's house being so strict, you know, like I said, I'm not able to do what other people are able to do. I was just sick of it, you guys. But there was also a lot of spiritual immaturity in me as well, because, you know, during this time, you know, it's college time. I'm still going to church. I'm still doing all these things. And there was a period to where the Lord had took a lot from me. And I'm going to go into specifics with that too, because that's also very pertinent information. Because when you're the eldest child, you have that burden of not only being the guinea pig child, to where you and your parents are kind of figuring out life at the same time. They don't really have any experience with you. You know, they're living life for the first time too. They're just learning. Not only are you the guinea pig child, but you have to be the guinea pig child while also setting a good example for the people behind you with no experience to life. This is everybody's first time. By the time that your parents have their second kid, their third kid, they're a lot better at things, which was also a big source of my resentment, because not only am I resenting how strict my parents' household is, I'm also resenting the fact that, oh, like, y'all didn't help me for college. Y'all didn't help me with nothing for college. But now I see y'all doing things for my other siblings. Like, I grew up in Syracuse, New York. It has a very rough neighborhood. I grew up on the South Side, and, I went to like the worst schools in the school district. But my younger sibling, they paid for her to go to a private Christian school. So just things like that, y'all, just totally, built on my resentment for my situation. I saw my parents doing things for my younger siblings that they never did for me. I grew up in a very strict household, so I felt like a large part of my childhood was taken from me. And then on top of all these things going on in my life, like I said, I had the burden of being a good example. Whether you like it or not, you are your siblings' role models. They are looking up to you. Now, whether or not you feel the burden to be a good example or not, that doesn't really matter because you are an example nonetheless. So why wouldn't you just want to be a good one? So all these things are going on. And on top of that, I'm also expected to perform in that way. You know what I mean? So, I made sure that I tried to do all the things. I made sure that I went to school and got really good grades. I went to college, bought a car, moved out, and, all the things that you feel like you should be doing to be a productive adult. Mind you, all the while, I feel like I don't really have any help or support that my other siblings are getting. And there was this one particular time, like, I'll never forget it because this is what was the beginning of my rebellion, right? I'm in college, early 20s. I'm out of college, work a year in finance. That was my 9-to-5 background. I worked for credit unions doing finance, stuff like that. After about a year, I left my home and I moved to Atlanta. But what was going on during that time was this. I'm in college. I'm putting myself through college. My parents are not giving me a dime for college. When I say not a dime, they didn't even put any money towards the things that you need for your dorm. You know how when you are a freshman, you have to live in the dorms and you have to get the special XX, and you have to get the special long twin sheets for your bedroom. And, you want a TV and stuff like that. I had a summer job. I was working at Hollister, and my money from that job is what bought that stuff for my dorm room. My parents didn't even buy the stuff for my dorm room. Like I remember we went to Walmart and my paycheck is what paid for my stuff for my dorm room. So that's what I mean when I say like, my parents never bought a book. They never paid a dime towards tuition. They didn't want to sign for any loans. So I was really on my own for college, but I knew that because when you have teenage parents, there is no college fund, like they're just trying to get by. They're just trying to keep a roof over your heads. And my parents always did a great job with providing what I needed, but anything extra, it was on me, So because of that, I felt like it was me that put myself through college. I bought my first car while working, while also going to college for biology. And I felt like, oh, this is my car. I did this for myself. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 19, I think, got my first apartment. I'm paying the rent there. My parents are not giving me grocery money, gas money for my car. I'm doing all this stuff myself. So this led to a great sense of false self-sufficiency. I thought that I was doing it all on my own, and I was not giving God the credit for even being in college, for even having the strength and the health to be able to work during college, for my paychecks. I wasn't tithing. I think there was sometimes I was tithing, sometimes I wasn't. But I was broke, y'all. Like I was broke. I mean, ramen noodle broke. I mean, I had a pet cat and I didn't know how I was going to feed my cat during college. Like literally, like I was not dirt, but I was broke during college. And there had came a time after I was done with school that I couldn't afford my apartment anymore because I was that broke after college. I needed to move back in with my parents. And I hated that for me. But that was a situation. So I remember this like it was yesterday because it was just absolutely crazy. It was like the week before I knew that I had to be out of my apartment because I couldn't afford the rent anymore. And I'm already very angry at this because like I said, I felt like my parents did so much more for my other siblings than they did for me. I had so much resentment with the fact that my parents did not give me any money for school, y'all. And that's a big reason, like the strict household and me feeling like my parents didn't help me enough are the reasons why during college I moved out. I was like, oh, I am not staying with y'all. I'm not living with y'all. I went to school in Syracuse. I could have lived with my parents and saved a lot of money. I did not, because I felt like, yeah, I could be saving money, but I'm going to pay for it with my mental health. So I was like, no, like I have to get out of this house. Like I was literally kicking the door down to be able to get out of that house. So that's what I did. Like come hell or high water, I was going to move out on my own. So I was so angry that I was struggling in college because I had to work. I was so angry that I did not have any more money to be able to pay for my apartment. I was just angry, y'all. So I go back to my parents and I'm like, hey, like I need to be able to move back in because I'm broke. I can't pay rent anymore. My mom was like, well, ask your stepdad, you know. I drive over to their house to be able to have this conversation with them about moving back in. Don't y'all know that I parked my car on the streets of my parents' house? I hear a crash while I'm inside with my parents. I hear a crash. I don't know how I knew, y'all, but I just knew that somebody had crashed into my car. So I go outside and someone had crashed into my car, totaled it. Mind you, the car that I bought. I felt like that was my car. Nobody had nothing to do with me having that car, my apartment, being in college, but Amani. They crashed into my car and totaled it. So all within the span of a week, I have to leave college because of financial reasons. I was not able to keep my apartment because I have no money, and my car is gone. All these three things that I felt like I did for myself, I felt like Amani did for Amani, all gone within a week. But this is during a time in my life where I was still, really strong in my relationship with the Lord. And I knew, y'all, like I knew that he was doing these things to break me of my self-dependency and my self-sufficiency of me feeling like I was doing everything for myself. I knew that this was an opportunity for the Lord to wipe the slate clean for me and for me to not build on myself, but to build on him. But here's where it went wrong for me. I knew that the Lord had took these things away from me, but in my mind, he did not replace them fast enough. I did not take my isolation season well. I did not take my rebuilding season well. I already have so much resentment towards my family. I already don't want to be at home. I already hate the fact that I had to leave school because of financial reasons. I already hate the fact, there's just so many things going against me at this time. And then the Lord takes all these things away from me. I ain't got no friends, y'all. I don't got nothing. Like I don't got nothing. And he did not replace them when I wanted to replace them. And I was tired of waiting. And I said, I'm done. I threw my hands up in the air. I said, God, I remember having this conversation with God. I remember saying, God, I am done. And I was. And I told my family I was going to move to Atlanta. I don't think they really took me seriously. The month after that, I was gone. So me moving to Atlanta from New York was a mix of me being done waiting on God, but also trying to put as much physical distance between me and my family because I already told y'all I was struggling so much with resentment. And in my opinion, the only emotion that rivals resentment when it comes to negative feelings towards a person or a situation, the only emotion that rivals that when it comes to the degree of hate that is truly behind these emotions is contempt. Resentment and contempt are very hard to come away from when it involves other people. Very hard. And I felt like what I needed to do to heal my wounds of being the eldest daughter, of not having any help, of always having to set a good example. I felt like I needed to put as much physical distance between me and my family as humanly possible. It was not enough that I just moved back out of my mom's house and I was still in Syracuse living my own life. Like, no, I needed, in my mind, physical distance is what was going to heal me. In my mind, making a new life for myself on my own was going to heal me. In my mind, being able to come to Atlanta and do things that were not even available to me back in Syracuse was going to heal me. Long story short, it didn't. Long story short, it didn't. Did it feel good in the moment? Oh, absolutely. Did it feel good to show my family that, yeah, I could pack up my stuff and leave and y'all didn't help me anyway. I might as well go across the country. Did that feel good in the moment? Oh, absolutely. Did it feel good to come to Atlanta and make money and travel and do all the things and model and work in nightlife? Did that feel good in the moment? Oh, absolutely. Did it feel good to not have to restrain myself and not constantly have to die to myself when it came to my relationship with God? Of course that felt good. It always feels good to walk within your flesh. It always feels good to make yourself happy, to chase happiness, which, by the way, is not biblical. It always feels good to fulfill self. So did those things feel good in the moment? Yes. But did they heal me? No. And you want to know how I know that they didn't heal me? Because I am still in the midst of this stuff, y'all. And when I say I was still having breakdowns, emotional breakdowns about the resentment I was still holding against my family just even last year. And I mean crying boo-hoo mental breakdowns about this. So that's how I know 8 years later, me living in Atlanta, me putting physical distance between me and my family did not work. Me creating a new life for myself did not work. Let me tell y'all what did work. Forgiving, releasing, and finally accepting the position in life that the Lord has ordained for me. So let me tell y'all how each of those three things has looked. There are a couple Bible verses that I have been really trying to memorize. The first one is in Matthew, I believe, chapter 10. And it's Jesus talking to his disciples, and he says, freely you have received, freely give. And there are so many things that you can put in there to say, freely I have received grace, so freely give grace to others. Freely I have received forgiveness, so give forgiveness to others. So me submitting my life to the Lord in the past year and a half, these convictions are coming for forgiveness. Ephesians 4:32, I believe, it talks about forgiving one another. So truly, I'm just getting convicted, y'all. Like, I'm just getting convicted about releasing the resentment and forgiving my parents, not only for the honor your father and your mother's sake, but also because forgiveness or unforgiveness does not affect the other person. When you're harboring unforgiveness, it only affects you. And when I tell y'all that the resentment and unforgiveness I was holding towards so many people, but especially my family, was literally like eating me alive. Like, there'll be times that I'm in the shower and I cannot let go of the hate in my mind. Like, there'll be times that I'm trying to fall asleep and I feel like my chest is just burning thinking about my family. You know, when I first left Atlanta, I would not go visit my family even for the holidays. My mom would call and I would just ignore her. I didn't want to speak to her. She would text me like, just call. I know the cat's in over there messing with my stuff. She would call me and I would ignore her. She would text me back like, just calling to make sure you alive. Like, I didn't want to hear from nobody. I wanted as much distance between my family and me as humanly possible. And all it did was hurt me in the end, because I would go and visit them when I finally felt like I was emotionally okay to go visit them. And I would just see them interacting with each other in a way that I never felt free to interact with them because of the resentment I held towards them. And I would just go by myself and just cry, y'all, because I felt so hurt. I felt so hurt, feeling like I was the odd one out in the equation with my family, but I did that to myself. I was the one that left my hometown and came to Atlanta and didn't go back for years and wasn't answering my mom's phone calls. Like, that was me. But I go back with my family and I see the dynamic and I feel left out and I'm just crying to myself. That's not hurting them, that's hurting me. So I just came to realize, like, the Lord calls us to forgive not only because he has given us forgiveness and we should reflect that in our own lives in order to attempt to be more Christ-like, but because harboring resentment just literally is harboring sin within your own body. And in order for me to move forward, not just with my family, but with my life, y'all, with my own life, I had to forgive. And I wasn't forgiving them for them. First of all, I was forgiving to be obedient to God, but I was forgiving for me. So what I literally did was I have this journal. I wrote down literally every single person that I was still harboring unforgiveness towards and resentment towards. I wrote down specifically their names and what I felt like they did to me, and I released it. And when I tell y'all, like, that might seem like a minor thing. It might seem like, oh, that's always what they say, you know, right? I don't know what your feelings is towards that particular exercise, but that's what the Lord led me to do. And I'm telling y'all, the resentment I had towards people was keeping me up at night. And after I did that, I slept like a baby. After I actually wrote it down and prayed over it as well and said it with my mouth, I forgive this person for doing that. I forgive this person for doing that. When you forgive, you take back the power that the devil is holding over you with that resentment. And that's something that we're going to get into a little bit later too, about how the devil was working against me with this resentment. But when you finally release that, you take back your power to live your life again. You're only hurting and hindering yourself. You think that you're hurting the other person. Oh, I will never forgive them. They'll never hear from me again. Whole time says they don't even care if they hear from you again. A lot of the times, I'm not talking about our families, but a lot of times, you know, we have people in our lives that have done us wrong and we feel like it was unjustified and they haven't gotten their consequence, and we just hold this hate towards them like it's hurting them. It's hurting you. And it was definitely hurting me. So that's what I did. I wrote down every name that I could think of. I took up like 2 whole pages of really serious offenses towards my life, family and non-family, people that I don't even really know. People on the internet, it didn't matter. I wrote down every single person that I felt like has wronged me, that I just kept going over. Like these scenarios were just playing over and over again in my mind. I wrote them down, I prayed over them, and I verbally said, I forgive you for this. I forgive you for this. And like I said, I slept like a baby that night. Now, is that to say that I don't still think about these scenarios? No. But that was a turning point in my life. And this was about last year, y'all. That was maybe about a year and a half ago. That was a turning point in my life to where I now knew what I needed to do to combat every time that the devil tried to put those thoughts in my head. Nope, I already forgave them. Nope, I can't think about that anymore. I already forgave them. Because we like to say that, oh, I forgive, but I don't forget. No, that's not the way that the Lord treats you with your sin. He not only forgives your sin, but he separates you from it. As far as the east from the west, he separates you from that. He forgets your sin. He removes it from you. So we can't say that we forgive people, but we won't forget. That's not the way that it works. You forgive and forget, because forgetting is the only way that you're able to move forward. Now, that's not to say that you forget in a way that now you go back into a relationship with these people and they're doing the same things to you over and over again. Oh, I forgive and I forget. Oh, no, you have boundaries. You learn accordingly. You move differently now, but you don't hold the same offenses towards them. So forgiving and forgetting was the first thing. Writing those names down in my journal, praying over them, that was the first step for me. A huge source of contention with me, with my family, specifically my parents, like I said, was them giving my siblings things that they never gave me. It's very easy to say, wow, I didn't have that growing up. Why didn't y'all do that for me? Y'all doing that for them, y'all didn't do that for me. And it's not even a jealousy thing. You resent the fact that your parents could not, would not do the things for you that you see them very easily and willingly doing for your younger siblings. And it makes you think like, okay, y'all not gonna help me, then I don't gotta be around. That was my mentality. That's why I left. Oh, I got to live independently. I got to help myself to everything. I might as well live by myself then, across the country. But one thing that the Lord also revealed to me is our parents are not perfect, y'all. I don't think that there is a child alive that can say that they don't hold some sort of resentment or they don't have a source of contention with their parents on some subject. Our parents are not perfect, and they are living life for the first time just like you. You know, like even with my mom, she had me as a teenager and she was figuring life out as a teenage mom. I'm figuring life out and I don't even got no kids. So just imagine the missteps, the times that you just had to stumble and learn. It's not just you living life for the first time, it's your parents too. And that's real. That's real. So the Lord really revealed to me like, yo, you think that you would have done it better? Do you think that when you were a teenager in high school having a child that you would have done it better? Show me. And that really put me in check because I think about all the good things in my childhood. You know, my parents had me as teenagers. We didn't have a lot of money. We grew up in the hood. Like I said, I went to the worst schools in the worst school district, probably in the States, probably. And there were a lot of people in my school that didn't know where their next meal was coming from. I never had that problem. Even with me not having the things that I wanted beyond what I needed, I always had what I needed. I never worried about where my next meal was coming from. I never had any type of food insecurity. Even if it was only ramen and hot dogs and Kick cereal, you know how you had the Kick cereal when you were like on WIC or welfare, like you had plain Cheerios and milk and the block cheese. Even if I only had that, I had food. I never went hungry. I was never in fear of, oh, I could come home and we were going to be evicted. That's that's a lot of people's stories. My mom always kept a roof over our head. She always kept food on the table. She always gave me love and support in the ways that she was able and capable to. A lot of people grow up with parents and they have all the things that they want and need, and their parents never show them love and support, and they end up resenting their parents, not for the material things that they didn't have, but for the lack of emotional connection with their parents. Like I said, dysfunctional families are dysfunctional in their own unique ways. I look back and I'm like, yeah, I could hate my parents for all the things that I felt like they didn't do, but what about the things that they actually did do? And I can't speak to the experience of a lot of the other eldest daughters that have very similar situations to me. But I can speak to the fact that I know that my parents did the best that they could with what they had. I know that. It might not have always been good enough for me, and they might not have had things when they were younger with me that now being 10, 20 years into their careers, they have more money to give more to my siblings. And that's just logical. Like, yeah, my younger siblings have it better off. My parents are older. They make more money now. They have a house. Like, you know, so a lot of things are just logical too. Like a lot of our emotions are just not logical. And you know, that's just what it is. And that's not to invalidate the way that you feel. But you sometimes have to step back from your emotions and really look at things objectively and be like, well, what else could they have done with what they had? Like Mariah Carey said, I'm going to do the best I can with what I got. Like, and I can truly see very genuine examples of my parents just doing the best that they could with what they had. And now the most important part, which is the acceptance of truly taking on and stewarding well and fulfilling the role that the Lord has for me as the eldest daughter. And this is where I want y'all to really kind of tune into and really listen to, because this portion is going to speak to any eldest daughter, regardless of the family and home situation that you grew up in. When I was home this past weekend, there was some stuff going on, and I told my mom, you know, I'm tired of being the eldest daughter. I'm tired of having the responsibility of getting everybody together. I'm tired of being the one that always has to be the bigger person and going to my siblings first, even when they are clearly in the wrong. I am tired of it. I'm tired of it. I was like, I don't want that for myself. And she told me basically, like I said in the beginning of this video, That's too darn bad. Like, I'm tired of this, grandpa. That's too darn bad. Like, because this is the role that the Lord has for you. It's not a coincidence, like I said, that I'm the eldest daughter. It's not a coincidence that my mom was the eldest daughter of an almost identical family dynamic. The Lord used what was clearly a generational sin in my family for the good of my mother, for the good of me. Because, yeah, my family always talked about how strict my mother was and, yada, yada. And even I felt it. And, I really resented that. But, not to toot my own horn, but look at the product. Look at what was produced in me because of my mom. My mom is the matriarch of our family. And I know that in society, we tend to give a lot of credence to patriarchy. And, it just is what it is. Men still make more money and they're still, CEOs of companies more so than women, the whole shebang, whatever. But let's just keep it real. And this has nothing to do with misandry. This has everything to do with the reality of the situation. Men are not the ones stepping up in the family to get everyone together. Regardless of if they're a good father or not, if they're a provider or not, that's not really what I see. And I think a lot of people can agree, especially in the Black families, in the Black community, it's not really the patriarch of the family bringing everyone together. It's the matriarch, it's the mother, it's the grandmother, it's the great-grandmother. And my mom let me know that there's going to be one day that she is not here and I will be the matriarch as the eldest daughter. So I better step into that role and do it right now because she's not always going to be here and I will be filling those shoes. And as the eldest daughter, sis, that is going to be you. When it comes to family dynamics, a lot of times it's not the son of the family that steps up and takes care of the parents when they get old. No, it's the daughter that does stuff like that. You will be the matriarch of your family, whether you like it or not, sis. So you better step into that role right now. Ask the Lord to strengthen you and guide you in that role and steward it well and get the practice while your parents are still here, because when they're gone, that is 100% going to be you and that is going to be me. And that's the conversation that my mom had with me, like, whether you like it or not, that is you. He made you an eldest daughter. That was not a mistake. Everything that I am, everything that you are, the Lord created it. And I would even argue the point that the eldest daughter position of your life, that portion of you is the greatest part of you. There are a lot of things that the Lord gives us. He gives us spiritual gifts. He gives us our personalities. He gives us our race. He gives us our family. But nothing that the Lord gives you is going to be as important as stepping into the eldest daughter role that He has for you. And you want to know how I know that your role as the eldest daughter is going to be the greatest role and the most effective role in your life? It is going to be your greatest ministry in life. It's because I know that as the eldest daughter, through my own experiences and what I hear tons of other eldest daughters talk about, it is the role in your life that the devil attacks the most. Tell me I'm wrong. I see so many conversations online about healing eldest daughter wounds, about women wanting to remove themselves from their families because they're the eldest and all the responsibility it comes with, all the resentment that the devil attacks you with when you're the eldest daughter. Eldest sons don't get this. I never hear the eldest son of a family talk about the resentment he has towards his family, how he wants to leave his family. You never hear the eldest son have this conversation. It's always the eldest daughter. And that also is not a coincidence. Your greatest effectiveness in life is where the devil is going to test you, attack you, and try to take you away from. And when I look back on my life and I think about the deep-seated hatred, contention, resentment that I had towards my family that led me to leave them and come to Atlanta, that was the devil, y'all. That was the devil trying to remove me from the position that the Lord ordained me to be in. And now that I have a ministry of my own with my podcast, with the way that I serve in my church, it has really made me go back to the basics of just the order that the Lord ordains in our life, because our God is a God of order. Our God is a God of structure and order. And there's no way that He's going to put you in a ministry position to preach and teach other people that don't even know you. And that's not what he has for the family that you were intentionally born into. Ain't no way. And a good example of this that we find in the Bible is with Moses. You know, Moses lived how many years? 40 years out in the wilderness, married, had kids, before the Lord appeared to him and called him back to Egypt to go lead his people out from Egypt. And on the way, after Moses finally agreed, right? Because he didn't even want to do it. After he finally agreed to go back to his people, the Lord almost kills him on the way. And I'm researching this. I'm just kind of like, what? Like, why? You know, because it said that God met him and almost killed him. And it was simply because when he was out living this life, trying to escape his people, he had forsaken the law of the Lord and the law of his people that the Lord had ordained. And that law dictated from the time that he made a people from Abraham, that law dictated that the sons get circumcised. While he's living away from God for all those years, he has sons, didn't circumcise them. And that's just, even that is so symbolic of how we go out of our way to leave behind what the Lord has told us to do in order to live our own lives. And that was me. I left behind New York to go to live my own life in Atlanta, leaving behind church, leaving behind my convictions. But when he was finally called back, when he was finally starting his true ministry, leading his people out of Egypt, the Lord said, ain't no way you about to go and lead people that you have never even met a day in your life out of Egypt. And you ain't even do within your own family what I told you to do. Circumcise your sons, get your household intact first, get your household in order, and then go talk to other people. So now that I have this ministry with my podcast, and like I said, in my church and everything, that's something else that the Lord has been convicting me on. Like, ain't no way that I'm gonna let you have this platform and have this ministry talking to people about me, and you don't even do that with your own family. And I haven't been, y'all. I have not been. I 100% have not been. It's a lot easier for us to go and talk to other people about the Lord than it is to talk to our own families. But the Lord really spoke to me and convicted me on that. Like, I made you the eldest daughter of this family. You will be the matriarch of this family. You will be the one getting people together one day. Get your family in order, go back and reconcile with your family, release that hurt, let that hurt go, forgive them, release that resentment, and you go and have better relationships with your sisters and your mom and your stepdad and your dad and your other siblings. You go and do that first, and then you come back to this ministry. So in the past year and a half, I have been doing, the Lord has been doing a lot of work within me, like I said, to forgive and to finally step back into the role that he has for me. And that just goes hand in hand with me going back and traveling and seeing my family a lot more than I have in the past 8 years. And as much as I still don't always want to be the bigger person, as much as I still want to live my own life, y'all, like, that desire has not left me to kind of be like, bro, like, this is just too much. It's not like I just have a few siblings in the house, you know, growing up with the same dad and the same mom. And no, like, you know, several different siblings with several different mothers. And it's just a lot to have to organize all these people. You know, like, I'm 30, like my siblings are now like in their 20s and stuff like that. I still have some really young ones, but we're all growing up. And now it's critical. Now it's like we all grown. This is crunch time, because now we're getting into the point of our lives to where what we do right now will set up our future. What we do right now is going to dictate the rest of our lives. Where you are when you are in your early 20s, or where you are when you're in your 20s and even early 30s, is the setup for the rest of your life. And now for me, it's like crunch time. Now for me, I don't have the luxury of being like, nah, I'm gonna just live my own life. The Lord called me into this role, and he called you into that role too, sis. And the way that the devil has attacked me with my eldest daughter role, with the resentment, with the hate, with the with moving away, with not wanting to talk to nobody, That's how I know that this is my most effective role, because the devil does not attack where you have no effectiveness. He is going to attack you in the area of your life where you can be used the most by the Lord, because that's where the threat is. Wherever we are most effective for the kingdom is a threat to the enemy, and that's where he's going to attack you. Y'all have to understand that the devil is not this super powerful being. He is a spirit, so he has powers that we don't have, but he's not more powerful than God, and he can't do anything that the Lord does not let him do. And we see that several times in scripture. So really, his mode of attack is not always the initial attack itself, because he, like I said, he can't do anything that the Lord does not let him do. It's really what he does on the back end. It's really the Lord putting things on your heart, the Lord ordaining things for you in the spiritual realm, and him going against it, trying to stop it, trying to distract you, trying to tempt you with this, trying to get your eyes off of what the Lord has for you. And that's exactly what happened with me. I felt like the Lord took all these things away from me when I was in New York. He did not replace them enough. And the devil planted the idea in my mind, girl, you don't even got to be here. What's in Syracuse? Leave your family. And I know that that was the devil, because those things did not heal me. I was still in Atlanta, like I said, being ate up with resentment and hate, still crying about it years later. I'm a grown woman. I'm 30 years old, crying about things that happened when I was 15. That's how I know that it was the devil that distracted me and tried to call me away from my family and call me away from the role that the Lord had for me by distracting me with move across the country. Because those things didn't help. They didn't heal me. And now that I have realized these things, it's allowed me to start. Because like I said, y'all, this is still a process for me. I'm not on the other end of this yet. That has allowed me to start to step into my role of a future matriarch, as a leader, not only online and in my church, but in my family. It has allowed me to really see things for what they are and say, okay, the devil has taken away this much time from my family and that's not going to happen anymore. Now, that does not have to look like, if you moved away from your family, moving right back with them. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to move back to Syracuse. But the relationship that I have with my family has to be more intentional. And the way that that's going to look for me going forward, I don't know. That's something that the Lord is going to still have to work on me with. But now that I have gotten past the first two steps of forgiveness, of releasing resentment, those things were necessary for me to be able to step into what the Lord has for me the next season. So eldest daughter to eldest daughter, sis, don't let the devil trick you out of your spot. Don't let him make you think that leaving your family is going to heal you. Don't let him tempt you with, no, if you just have these things, if you just leave your family behind, go no contact. You don't got to talk to them. You don't got to forgive them. It's their first time living life, but they still did you wrong. These are all the things that are being repeated to us about self-care and self-love. A lot of this self-love rhetoric that is being preached to us through various different channels about the way that we need to move as individuals and leave this person behind and you don't owe nobody nothing is just self-sabotage repackaged. You're not hurting them by not forgiving them. You're not hurting them by not moving into the position that the Lord has for you. You're not hurting them by giving away the position in your family. You're only hurting you. And I know that for a fact. I know for a fact that you being the eldest daughter, the Lord has gifts within that. That is your effectiveness. That is your ministry. That is the order that he has for your family. And the Lord ain't never wrong about the order that he's already ordained for you. So whatever steps that you need to take today, sis, to forgive your family, to move forward, to go back to your family, and to be the true leader in your family that he has called you to be. Whatever that looks like, pray and ask God to reveal that to you today. Because it might not look like how the Lord revealed it to me. It might look different for you. But I'm telling you, those things are necessary in order to step into the highest calling of your life, which is 100% the eldest daughter, leader, matriarch role that he has for you. And that's where I'm going to leave it, you guys. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. We're going to heal together, and I will see you and talk to you guys later. Bye.